If you were trapped in a mansion during a hurricane and someone was killing your friends one by one, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the killer in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. These girls will commit cold-blooded murder just to survive. Sophie here has decided to If you were trapped in a mansion during a hurricane and someone was killing your friends one by one, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the killer in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. These girls will commit cold-blooded murder just to survive. Sophie here has decided to visit her childhood friends for a long overdue reunion and arrive at this huge mansion, but her girlfriend B is nervous. She's never met them before, and wanting to make a good impression, the girl returns to the vehicle to pick up a present she brought for everyone. Before leaving, she checks her appearance in the mirror, but forgets to close the sun visor as she leaves the car, and this one mistake will get them all killed. Meanwhile, Sophie finds her friends hanging out in the swimming pool, and they're all excited to see her after such a long time. That's when B arrives, and her girlfriend runs over introducing her childhood friends. Getting out of the water, the group starts planning for their hurricane party, when Greg here approaches with a champagne bottle and cuts the top open with a sword. It's impressive, and the man pours a drink for everyone, but Sophie here declines. She's trying to stay sober, and the friends make a toast, but they're suddenly interrupted by the rain. The hurricane is already
Yo, yo. Yo, yo. Yup. There we go. Let me make sure. Probably 30. We gotta put some clothes on. Do that in a second though. Some clothes on. Gotta hop in the shower. Do that in a second though. Some clothes on. Hold on, I still got no delay for real. Hold on, I still got no delay. Hold on. On song. This would look crazy. Let me see what the flex is looking like. Oh. Nah, camera do me dirty. But there we go. I was really talking about these niggas and everything. Mic wasn't even right. I don't know what it was set to. Wait, hold on. Can I show it? It was, I don't know. It was like, I don't know. It was a whole bunch of random numbers.
Already on its way, and the group heads indoors, passing the time by catching up.
4 girls, 2 dudes. Is this the same dude? I don't know. It don't really matter though.
Being as hard as they can when Jordan here approaches B, asking where she went to university. The
girl
girl tells her she went to Utah State, with no idea that this information will be used against her. Meanwhile, Sophie checks in with the host, warning him not to drink so much, but the man ignores her, insisting she should keep an eye on her partner instead. Looking around, she spots one of their friends dancing too closely with her girlfriend, and that's when she decides to interrupt the music, suggesting that they all play a game of bodies. Explaining the rules, Sophie tells them that they will each get a piece of paper, and whoever takes the one with an X becomes the secret murderer. Then, they'll turn off all the lights and hide as the killer hunts them down. But if someone discovers a body, they must announce it immediately and vote on who the murderer is. With that, the group starts turning off the lights, and B here looks for a place to hide, with no idea that this is going to turn into a real-life killing spree. The game begins, and B sneaks around, trying to hide from the other players. When
actually, can I use my headphones? I want to see what they sound like. No, I'm gonna leave it there before I mess something up again. I don't know what happened. Actually, no, it's because I lost everything I had. Fortnite, Apex. I'm gonna delete Apex. I ain't gonna lie, I'm not playing that. Fortnite, you'll see me on it every other day. I had to reset my PC because I couldn't do nothing. My graphics card was tripping. I didn't want to update it, so.
Suddenly, the girl hears someone shouting. They've discovered a dead body, and she goes upstairs, joining the group to find Greg lying motionless on the floor. Thinking nothing of it, the survivors begin their first round of voting, and the host accuses his girlfriend of being the murderer. He reminds everyone that she always stays quiet until there's an opportunity to gang up on somebody and vote them out. It's her go-to strategy to beat the game, and this girl accuses the host of being the murderer, but is interrupted when B realizes the victim isn't moving. Okay, this is not going to end well. It might not look like much, but if we're paying attention, it's already clear these people are one argument away from killing each other. First of all, there's Jordan here, who's jealous of Sophie's new girlfriend and wants to put the girl in her place. Then there's David here, who clearly hates Greg and has already punched the man in the face during one of their drinking games. He's also high as a kite, and when you take a tense situation like this, throw in a sharp weapon and play a murder game in the dark, it's a recipe for violence. They've already admitted that every time they play this game, it gets ugly, so we have good reason to think that these people will try to get revenge on each other. Now, B here wants to impress these people, and we don't want to become their enemy, but there's actually something we can use to our advantage. The natural instinct here is to stay out of their drama, but the truth is, we're stuck in a mansion with a bunch of wealthy addicts in the middle of a hurricane. It's inevitable that we're going to get roped in whether we like it or not, and that's why if they were me, I would stir the pot as much as possible. Since everyone has their own vendetta, they will all want the new girl to validate their perspective, and this is exactly what we want. The first thing I would do is try to find out why David here has a black eye, because there's no question it's the source of an ugly conflict. As the newcomer to the group, everyone will know that I'm asking innocent questions, and each person will want to convince me of their own story. As
like that nigga don't. Hold on. It's a crazy. I didn't spell shit right. I'm on the search of dude that was with Ariana Grande. Hold on, fuck. Hold on. My nigga. Yeah, him. Nigga eyes just naturally look like that in this dude. Nigga eyes just naturally look like that, and bro talking about it's a black eye. You must not know who he is. I don't know how he got top bags. Like, nigga got hella black underneath his eyes. And then on top, too, like, nigga a demon. Bro, real different.
Black eye, because there's no question it's the source of an ugly conflict. As the newcomer to the group, everyone will know that I'm asking.
Nigga just said it. There's no... just ugly contact. There's no way that this nigga's been fighting for it. Control Shift T. There's no way that this nigga here has been fighting every single day and just begin repeatedly black eye. Let me see if anybody... I'm not trying to see him. I rear my eyes squinted, so I don't know if they...
innocent questions, and each person will want to convince me of their own story. As counterintuitive as it might seem, this puts us in a great position because these people are clearly entertained by their own drama, and giving them a reason to talk about it will make them like us. This is important to our survival, because if the game escalates into violence, we're going to be a lot safer than the others if they believe we're on their side. As soon as this happens, the power dynamic changes, and the group is going to value our opinions more than anyone else's. All we need to do is continue investigating their drama from a place of innocence, and we won't be forced to choose sides. Worried, Alice here rolls the man over, but he still isn't moving. The group starts to panic, but that's when the host calms them down with a gentle sack tap, jolting him awake. Relieved, they continue playing, and Jordan suggests that the host might be the killer, but his girlfriend starts to defend him. They get into a heated argument on who the murderer is, and that's when Greg points out that the best defense is a good offense. It's a strange comment, and the players tell him it's against the rules for the dead to talk, but David here takes it personally. Confronting him, the host makes it clear that he doesn't like him, and the men get into a stare down, but Greg decides to call it a night, suggesting they play without him. After he leaves, the host accuses his girlfriend of being the killer because she can't stop swallowing, and explains that it's her nervous tick. Defending herself, the two of them get into an argument when their friend Alice interrupts. She jokes that this is why they never get intimate anymore, and the man realizes that his girlfriend has been talking about him behind his back. The girl accuses him of constantly gaslighting her, and he lashes out, insisting she's always playing the victim. The tensions start rising as the others join in, voting that David is the killer, and the man angrily smashes his bottle before storming out of the room. With that, the partygoers start taking shots and decide to continue the game when lightning strikes, knocking out the power in the building. The girls think that David is messing with them, but they suddenly realize there's no Wi-Fi or service. Something's wrong, and Jordan decides to flip the breaker switch as everyone splits up. B heads downstairs, but as she's looking around for the bathroom, something bumps into the glass door behind her. Turning around, she realizes it's David, and his neck has been sliced open. The man drops to the ground just as the others find him and quickly rush over to check on their friend, terrified that he's going to die. They have no idea how to help him, and the storm is getting stronger by the second. To make things worse, they can't get reception on their phones, and the girls panic, knowing that their only option left is to drive away into the hurricane. It's impossible to save this man's life in time, and that makes one person down with 6 more to go. Leaving the house, the survivors rush through the rain and quickly get into the vehicle, but when one of the girls tries the ignition, they quickly realize that the car won't start. The battery died after B left the sun visor down all night, and she asks them if there are any other cars around. The girls explain their friend Max dropped them off and left, but he isn't coming back until tomorrow, meaning they're trapped here in a hurricane with a killer on the loose. Okay, this escalated quickly. Being stuck in a pitch-dark mansion is already scary enough, but when you add a killer to the situation, it's clear we need to start strategizing for survival. The car is dead, and we can't call for help, but what's even more terrifying is that with so much bad blood between this group, the killer could be any one of them. It won't be long before they start blaming each other, so we need to make sure they don't start pointing the finger at us next. Now, our first instinct here is to panic, but if we can keep a level head, there are some key details that could save our lives. If we remember earlier when everyone ran inside, David here dropped his sword by the side of the pool, and it looks like that's the exact spot where he was murdered. This likely means his killer had to go outside in order to get the sword, but more importantly, it also means whoever the killer is must already be wet from the rain. With this in mind, the smartest thing for us to do right now is stay inside as dry as possible, because it's the only proof that we didn't murder him. The girls ran outside without realizing they were incriminating themselves, because this is exactly what the murder would do. Running towards the body will make them all wet and bloody, giving them an alibi for their appearance, and it means we won't be able to tell the killer apart from the others. If our clothes are dry, we can explain that it's impossible for us to be the murderer because the man was killed outside, and it gives us the strongest alibi of anyone in the group. I would then point out that David was still alive when we found him, which means the first person to run outside was probably the killer, because they'd be the closest to the crime when it happened. This would make Sophie here the prime suspect, but the girl is clearly dry, so it can't be her. What's suspicious is that the second person to come running was Emma, the man's girlfriend, and she comes darting out of the house less than a second after Sophie. From this angle, it would be impossible to figure out if her clothes were already wet and bloody, and it means this could have been her strategy from the beginning. Earlier during the game, Emma's boyfriend was bullying her, and it made the girl cry in front of everyone. What he said was straight up vicious, so it's definitely the best motive for murder among anyone in the group. The most damning evidence here is that nobody screamed his name or made a sound that would have drawn the girl's attention. There was no reason for Emma to know what was going on unless she was already there to witness what was happening, and this is why she should be considered suspect number 1. Now, the last thing to point out is that if none of them are the killer, they clearly shouldn't stay inside the house. The car is out of battery, but most of a hurricane's deadly hazards come from floods, storm surges, and rip currents. Luckily, this mansion is nowhere near a coastline and is actually at a pretty high elevation, so all the girls need to worry about are strong winds and rain. Given the choice between locking themselves in with a murderer or being wet for a few hours, the choice should be a no-brainer. In this case, the best decision would be to put on rain jackets, climb the gate, and walk to a neighbor's house hoping to find Wi-Fi or a cell phone signal. Going back to the house, the group waits for the hurricane to pass when they suddenly hear someone knocking on the door. The survivors back away, terrified it's the killer, but when a voice calls out, they realize it's their friend, Jordan. Relieved, Sophie opens the door, and they're shocked to see her holding a sword stained with blood. The group goes downstairs to discuss what they should do, and the girlfriend reminds them that the security system should still work even when the power is off. No one can get in without the code, but Alice points out their missing friend Max already knows what it is. He could be the killer after what he did last night, but that's when this girl tells her to keep quiet. Curious, Sophie asks what happened, and her friend explains that Max confessed his feelings for the dead man's girlfriend. That could be a motive for murder, but Jordan here points out they haven't seen Greg since he left the game. He might also be the killer, and scared for her life, she reaches into a drawer to grab a meat cleaver. That makes the group nervous, and Alice demands she put down the weapon, but Jordan refuses, asking how long she's known her boyfriend. Reluctantly, Alice admits that she's only met him recently and barely knows anything about him. It's clear that he's the most suspicious person here, and the girl calls him to come downstairs, hoping he'll be able to explain himself. Jordan quickly covers her mouth and tells her friend to stay quiet, but suddenly realizes that one of the other girls has just disappeared. They head upstairs to Alice's room looking for Greg, but the man is nowhere to be found. One of the girls asks Sophie if there are any guns in the house, but she tells her there aren't any, forcing the survivors to defend themselves with whatever else they can find. The group looks around the room for clues when Jordan suddenly finds Greg's luggage, but when they open it up, they discover it's full of survival gear, including a map that's circling the house that they're in. The girls are certain this man is the killer and continue looking for their friend before he gets to her next. Inside another room, they search for any signs of the missing girl when the group notices a body under the blankets. Lifting the covers, they find their friend hiding underneath, and she gets up asking them why they followed her here. The girls explain they have proof the killer is Greg, and they're trying to
I'm about to see how to turn it on right now. Please don't let my popcorn fall, please. Hold on, nah. Hold on, I'll do it. I ain't gonna get no comedy till like 3 hours in, but I'm feeling about a whole bunch of stuff. Then I'm finna take a shower for like good like 2 hours still. Except to Sunset to a alert box. Hold on, let me hide my screen before I. Yeah. Before I leak some. Here we go. Your boy's back. Your boy's back.
To find him before he kills anyone else. With the plan set, they head downstairs to continue their search and find the older man sleeping on the floor of the indoor basketball court. It's strange, and soon another person is about to be murdered. Okay, walking up to this guy was a huge mistake. Greg here is a giant compared to these girls, and everyone thinks he's a military veteran, while the only fighting experience they have is their losing battle with alcoholism. Most of the girls are already intoxicated, so even with kitchen knives, this is not the kind of guy you want to pick a fight with unless you have a very good plan. Now, if the girls think Greg is the killer, they have to realize that he's already planned for everything. So far, the murderer has cut the lights, jammed their phone signals, and brought a go bag to make his escape. This guy has superior tactical knowledge, and that means if you find him lying on the floor of a basketball court, then this must be a part of his plan. If their theory was correct, then the whole situation looks like a trap, and that's why instead of trying to kill him, we need to trap him ourselves. If it were me, I would instruct one girl to keep watch at the window while the other four search for anything to barricade his only exit and lock him inside. This gives us a makeshift prison to keep the man in until we find a way to call the police. Now the truth is, if they were paying attention to the items in his luggage, it's already clear that Greg isn't the killer. This here's what's known as a go bag, which is a portable kit of survival gear when you're in the wilderness. Looking inside, we can see that the man brought a skiing mask, a headlight, a bundle of rope, and a map of the area, which are all important items if you're stuck in the middle of a hurricane. More importantly, if he was the killer, it would have made a lot more sense for him to use his own knife instead of this giant kukri here. This weapon is impossible to conceal, and that makes it totally impractical for a sneak attack. On the other hand, he could have killed the man anywhere in the house with his own knife instead of needing to go outside where the rain could be used as evidence against him. These girls are dumber than a sack of bricks, and if I were part of the group, I would be suspicious of everyone else a lot more than Greg here. That's why the smartest decision here is to prepare drinks for everyone to stay hydrated and spike them with a bottle of Happy Fun Time pills. If I carefully manage the dosage, it would be enough to cause extreme drowsiness, poor motor control, and diminished mental faculties. This would make the potential murderer as non-threatening as possible without killing them, and it gives us the upper hand over the situation until we can figure out what's really going on here. Entering the room, the group approaches the man and wakes him up, asking what he's doing here. Greg explains that he came down here earlier to work out, but then fell asleep with his earphones in. That's why he never heard them calling his name, but they don't believe his story. Confused, the man thinks they're still playing a game and starts chasing the girls around the court, when he suddenly notices one of them waving a knife and carrying his bag. Greg stops in his tracks, and his girlfriend demands to know why he brought survival gear, but he explains it was only to prepare for the hurricane. That's when they reveal that David is dead and accuse Greg of killing him. The two men had a standoff before he went upstairs, but he can't believe what he's hearing and smacks the knife out of Sophie's hand. Picking it back up, he demands that they drop their weapons and talk this out. The girls are terrified, but they all agree and put their knives down onto the floor. That's when Jordan attacks the man from behind, but he defends himself, shoving her into a wall. He walks forward to check on her when another girl jumps into his back and chokes him from behind. Realizing that they're going to murder him, the man fights her off and runs for the knife, but just as he picks it up, Beach smashes a kettlebell into his head. He drops to the floor dead, and that makes 2 people down with 5 more to go. The survivors are traumatized. He drops to the floor dead, and that makes 2.
It's her, bro. It's her. It's fucking her, bro. It's one of these two, bro. I feel like I could guarantee that. There's no way it's this one. I feel like this one is like a little sus too. It might be her. These two, I feel like, nah, cause then it's like the ones that you don't suspect be the ones. But like from obvious, this girl done killed like, it's just giving killer. And then she the one that wanted to stay sober too. Nah, it's her.
2 people down with 5 more to go. The survivors are traumatized by the sheer brutality and take a moment to catch their breaths. When Alice tells them her boyfriend wasn't the killer. Frustrated, this girl argues that he was the most likely person to attack somebody since he was a veteran soldier. But Alice is shocked, revealing that he was just a veterinarian. The girl defends herself, reminding the group they know.
Fucking God, bro. They really killed off the nicest nigga in here. That's insane. Nigga got killed with a kettle for no fucking reason. Nah, that's insanity. And if they did, they actually did have common sense. I thought that this was a heating room or something. Bro went in there to dry off, but damn, my nigga. Think he was throwing around a sword earlier too. Damn, my nigga, I'm very sorry.
Nothing about Greg, and
Veterinary?
nobody else has a motive. But soon they'll see she's the most vicious person of the group. The survivors leave the basketball court trying to figure out what to do next, but Sophie decides to break her sobriety to calm herself down. Later, she joins the others and overhears Alice suggest her missing friend Max might be the killer, but Emma disagrees. She insists that even though the man has a crush on her, he wouldn't kill her boyfriend, and that makes Sophie here furious. The group can't believe how self-centered she's behaving and criticizes Emma for faking her relationship. Shocked, she accuses her friend of being toxic and walks out of the room, knowing that she was telling the truth. The situation is tense, and the hurricane is getting stronger, but that's when Alice here realizes that the new girl is missing. Upstairs, Bea changes out of her clothes and washes the blood off of her face. She feels guilty for murdering Greg, but these girls are about to get a lot more brutal before the night is over. Okay, Bea here just f***ed up big time. She's gone from bringing zucchini bread for good impressions to savagely killing a veterinarian with a kettlebell, and now she's the only confirmed murderer in the entire mansion. As quick as they've been to move on, someone is going to have to take the blame for this mess, and Bea here has just given them all the perfect excuse to point the finger at her. Eventually, the police are going to get involved, and if we don't have a strategy to avoid these real-life consequences, we might be spending the rest of our lives behind bars. Now, the good news is that we have a great opportunity to fix this
show is called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I'm guessing it's 3
because as long as the hurricane is keeping us trapped here, we have time to stage the crime scene, making sure it's telling the exact story that we want. The girls still don't know who killed David, and it's reasonable to assume the murderer is among us, but right now, there are too many loose ends. The more this gets out of our control, the more the police will think we're all suspects, and that's why if I were Bea here, I would suggest that we find duct tape and a garbage bag to wrap up the body before moving him outside where we found David. Then, we can plant his fingerprints on the murder weapon and stage the scene to appear like Greg was the killer. As messed up as this sounds, it's actually a win-win for the entire group, because this is the only story we can tell the police that won't completely ruin our lives. In exchange for their cooperation, I'd offer to admit that I personally hit Greg in the head, but only after witnessing him attack David. Fortunately for Bea here, Utah is a stand your ground state, which means it has laws that give you the right to use force in self-defense as long as the attacker has a lethal weapon. We can then use the rest of the night cleaning up all evidence from inside the house and rehearse our alibi together so that nobody's version of the story is different. It's still a risky strategy, but incentivizing the group to cooperate protects us from anyone confessing the truth because we've turned them into co-conspirators. And if the real murderer is still alive, she'd be happy to support our version of the story when the police come to investigate. Downstairs, Sophie searches through a board game box and discovers a ping pong ball with a hidden stash of meds inside. Finding Emma, she apologizes for yelling at her earlier, but then the girl suddenly kisses her on the lips. It takes Sophie by surprise, and she scolds her friend for being a creep, but offers the stash she found as a gift. Embarrassed, the girl accepts and quickly walks away, with no idea she's heading straight to her death. In another part of the house, Alice goes looking for the new girl when she hears someone screaming in the distance. Terrified, she rushes down the hall, but as she continues through the building, she suddenly trips. Getting back to her feet, the survivor realizes that she fell in Emma's dead body and screams in horror, making that 3 people down, with 4 more to go.
Man, stop playing with me.
She fell in Emma's dead body and screams in horror, making that.
Okay, so it's obvious. It's very obvious that she is not one. Now, this girl, haven't seen her. This girl, haven't seen her. But this girl just walked away from this girl. Don't nobody know that, but it would be sus. But this girl is probably out hiding too. Dang. I feel like this girl gonna make it out. Nah, it's just giving killed. I feel like she gonna die. But this one, was this one the one that drug her, or did this one drug her? I don't even know. But this girl, where the fuck are you at?
3 people down, with 4 more to go. The others find her and stare, shocked that another person has been murdered so quickly. Inspecting the staircase, Jordan suggests the victim tripped and fell to her death, but been murdered so quickly. Inspect 4 more to go. The other.
It's her. It's the girl top right.
Others find her and stare, shocked that another person has been murdered so quickly. Inspecting the staircase, Jordan suggests the victim tripped and fell to her death, but her friend insists that she was pushed. They don't know what actually happened, and it makes them terrified that either the killer is still out there, or somebody here is hunting everyone down. Later, the group gathers in a room, paranoid that they could be next. When Alice decides to speak up, she suggests that the killings are happening in the same order that the players were supposed to die in the game, but Jordan here shuts her down, insisting she's getting paranoid after taking too many pills. Alice freaks out, yelling that they're all wasted, and that's when the new girl reveals she's completely sober. That makes the others suspicious, and this girl points out they barely know anything about her. Bea insists she's innocent, but Jordan reveals she looked her up and found no record of the girl attending the university. It's clear she's hiding something, and the group realizes that not only did she have the chance to sabotage the generator.
So it's none of them. It's fucking none of them. Actually, no, bro, because I feel like these niggas is on their death note time. They on some curious shit. Like, these niggas is plotting. Like, but I feel like it can't be her. Or did she? If she fed the drug to that girl, then most definitely it's her. But this girl, it's just not giving. It's just giving getting killed in the next scene, and the other girl getting killed in the next scene. I feel like it's gonna be between them two. But then it could, if there's a person outside, I feel like such an idiot.
But they also watched her murder someone in cold blood. Any one of them could be next, and the girl tries to calm them down to explain herself, but they refuse to listen.
And they getting too sus over, they finna kill her right now.
That's when Alice starts pushing her, demanding she leave, and her friend opens the door, forcing Bea out of the house. They don't trust her, and she tries to go back inside, but the survivors make sure all the entrances are locked. Walking back to the car, Bea gets inside the vehicle and looks for something to eat, when she discovers a pair of underwear that doesn't belong to either of them. Furious, she heads back to the house and tries to find a way in, when she sees someone enter a room. Taking a closer look, Bea recognizes that it's Jordan, and she's just found a gun. Okay, this is getting out of control.
Scared.
We already have another dead body, and it could mean that the killer is planning to finish everyone off. Nobody is safe, and with this in mind, getting pushed out into the rain might actually be the best thing that could happen. Someone hears a wolf in sheep's clothing, and if we're not inside the house, then our chances of surviving the night have just gone up massively. With that said, we still don't want to become the prime suspect when the night is over, because eventually, the only people that will be left alive are us and the real killer. It's worth considering they might want to keep someone alive to blame for the murders, and it means we need to identify the killer before it's too late. Bea here was smart to head back to the mansion, because as we can see, most of the bottom floor has glass windows, and since the only lights are on the inside, it's a lot easier for us to observe their movements through the house. It just so happens that Bea caught Jordan with a gun, and this gives us the perfect opportunity to shift the power dynamics back in our favor. The truth is, we need the rest of the group on our side to avoid the killer's endgame strategy, and that's why if I were in this situation, I would have taken out my phone and snapped as many pictures as I could. This way, we can break in by smashing a window and confront the girl in front of the group. Right now, Bea's disadvantage is that everyone knows she lied about going to college, and it means they won't take us at our word. That's why the best way to handle this is to ask a leading question where we know Jordan will lie.
Hold on, that might be the girl that searched her up. She searched up everybody here.
And then use the photo as evidence against her. This will help us convince the group that the only reason she would keep her weapon a secret is because she plans on using it against them, and they'll be too terrified to risk keeping the girl around. If they're still not convinced, I would remind them that Jordan found the original murder weapon and picked it up to make sure she could explain why her fingerprints were on it. She's also been the most vocal member of the group to accuse others of being the killer, and this might be enough to turn everyone against her. The girl realizes Jordan might be a killer and continues looking for a way in.
And whoever, I'm pretty sure Jordan or whatever, she the one that looked up what she was going to.
When she discovers a doggy door, Bea crawls through it as fast as she can and searches for a makeshift weapon inside the house. Terrified the others will get slaughtered, she's determined to save her girlfriend at any cost and returns to the room where the remaining survivors have gathered. Bea immediately tells them that Jordan has a gun and demands that the girl empty her pockets. Reluctantly, she pulls everything out and drops the items onto the floor, but there's no gun in sight. That's when Alice spots a small paper with an X on it and realizes she was the killer in the game. Bea accuses her of murdering the host, reminding the others she was the last person at the crime scene, but Jordan defends herself. Bea has bring the host and caught in a lie.
Bro, one of these two now. Fuck this girl. She was a little sus too. This girl says this girl could get this girl killed, and this girl could get this girl killed, and then it's gonna be a 1v1. Then it's gonna be her or her. I don't know, huh? Nigga, this shit low key mystery. I like stuff like this though.
About being a college student, and her own girlfriend didn't even know the truth. With no other choice, the girl reveals that she dropped out of university and lost her job a week after Sophie met her. It's humiliating to admit, but the girl forgives Bea for lying, grateful to learn her secret. That's when Jordan walks over to the couch and picks up the gun. The others freak out as she aims it at them, frustrated that her friend hasn't been honest, and reveals that they secretly hooked up before picking up Bea on their way here. That means the underwear in the car belonged to Jordan, and Sophie tries to convince her it's a lie, but her childhood friend tells Bea to check the girl's texts. The situation is getting personal, and Sophie lashes out, exposing the fact that Jordan admitted she doesn't like their friend's podcast. It's a low blow, and upset, Alice joins in the argument, pointing out the girl's flaws, with no idea that this was her biggest mistake. Overwhelmed, Jordan pulls the
So I think this girl was the actual, she the one that killed them from here on out, but I don't know. I think she is the I don't know.
trigger, shooting her friend in the leg, and the others stare in shock. The girlfriend begs her to put the weapon down, but the survivor refuses, insisting she's not the murderer. Desperate, Alice walks up and tries to wrestle the gun out of her hands, and they all gang up on the girl, fighting over the weapon until the pistol goes flying through the air. The survivors crawl across the floor and wrestle each other for the gun, when someone suddenly pulls the trigger. Shocked, everyone backs off and realizes that one of their friends has just been shot to death, making that 4 people down with 3 more to go.
It's her. It's confirmed. Oh, I thought she died. It's her. It's confirmed. I always knew she was the first person that I thought was gonna do it.
First of all, if Jordan wants to insist that she isn't the murderer, then pulling out a secret gun and shooting your friend in the leg is not the most convincing way to go about it. Anytime a weapon is introduced to a group of drama-prone addicts, we should expect that it isn't going to end well, and if the girl was thinking straight, she should have kept the gun hidden for as long as possible. Revealing your secret weapon to the killer would be the dumbest thing to do, because it means you can't take them by surprise if they attack you. Whether she's the murderer or not, this girl is clearly putting the group in more danger, and that's why taking her down is the right decision. The problem is, they went about it completely the wrong way. As soon as someone manages to grab the gun, the first thing they should do is put the safety back on and remove the bullets before throwing the weapon into the fireplace. This takes it out of the picture for the killer to use, and once Jordan is disarmed, we can get the rope from Greg's go bag to bind her hands and legs. Now, it's worth pointing out that if Jordan and Alice are getting physical, the others shouldn't make things worse by joining in. The girl has already demonstrated she's willing to pull the trigger, so trying to overpower her right now is not going to be the best decision. The safer thing to do is play on everyone's fear, and that's why if I were one of these girls, I would distract them by yelling that we just saw someone outside with a knife. If Jordan's not the killer, she'll react to the news, and it will make everyone stop fighting if there's a larger threat they need to deal with. Even if it's a lie, this made-up enemy will force the girls to work together, because they'll be less focused on each other as suspects, and as long as we stay in the same room without any weapons, there won't be any more opportunities for—
Please don't tell me my dog in here or something. My day one. My nigga been with me for 15 years. If you ever bring the downfall of my dog, nigga, you a bitch. Oh God. Hold on.
for murder. I would then tell everyone to barricade themselves into a room on the second floor where an intruder is less likely to break in. It's important to keep in mind that fear and drama are driving these girls into making terrible decisions, so as long as we can direct their fear into the right places, we can avoid any more deaths. This should make them easier to control until the power returns, and we can then try to call for help. The girls are horrified to see another friend die in front of them, and now they're the only survivors left. Acting quickly, Jordan grabs the weapon and—
Nigga, everybody is a killer at this point. I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, everybody is a killer at this point, except for white girl. It's 2 black girls, 1 white dude. I mean, 2 black girls, 1 white girl. Except for white girl.
Aims it at the others, terrified that they might kill her now. She backs away up the staircase as the girlfriend approaches her, begging the girl to drop the gun. It's clear she doesn't want to kill Sophie, and pleads with her to stay where she is, when suddenly, B runs into the girl and pushes her over the railing, sending her falling to the floor. Looking down, the survivors check on the killer and find her body has landed on dozens of glass bottles, wounding her badly. There's no way she'll survive this, and with her last breath, she tells Bay to check Sophie's text messages before firing at the girls above, making that 5 people down with 2 more to go. They run for their lives and quickly hide in a closet, but things are tense. The survivors don't know if they can trust each other, and B confronts her girlfriend, demanding to know if she had an affair. Sophie denies it, insisting she would never do that, and reaches out to touch the girl's cheek, but she jolts away. B is terrified that her girlfriend is the real killer and runs out of the closet. Rushing through the house, she looks for somewhere to hide and quickly ducks behind a couch before her girlfriend can catch up. Sophie tries calling out to her, but she doesn't get a response. The girl walks out of the room, and making sure the coast is clear, B sneaks through the house, avoiding the other survivor for the rest of the night. The next morning, she heads outside and looks around the property, scared of being caught, when Sophie suddenly hugs her from behind. The girl reveals that she found some pills and gave them to Emma, believing that it was what made her fall down the stairs. She blames herself for her friend's death, and the survivors think she's finally safe when B suddenly pulls out the gun. The student demands she show her the messages on her phone, and the girl reluctantly pulls it out, but just as B reaches for the device, she tosses it away. The girlfriend quickly rushes for the phone, determined to find out the truth, and drops the gun in the process. The girls begin to wrestle for control, falling into the swimming pool, and when they climb back out, B finally manages to pick up the phone, but Sophie realizes that this one isn't hers. Noticing the host's dead body nearby, the girl walks over to him, unlocking the device using his Face ID, and that's when she discovers something shocking. Heading back to Sophie, she shows her that the man was recording a TikTok last night, where he tried cutting the champagne bottle open, but made a fatal mistake. He was
so everybody killed each other. Nigga, are you serious right now, bro? You can't be serious, like. Nigga, say you fucking swear to God. Nigga died for a TikTok too. That's insane. That shit is insane. I would like sit right here for this hot ass minute. Trying to guess who the fucking killer was. This nigga died for a TikTok and started all of that shit. Fucking sellout, bro. Nigga died for a TikTok. He didn't even get to upload the shit. I would have uploaded it.
Murder. And the girls realize that they all killed each other out of paranoia. All of a sudden, their missing friend Max arrives, and shocked by the carnage, he asks them what happened. The girls are speechless and have learned a valuable lesson. Never leave Pete Davidson alone without a babysitter. But what do you think? How would you be bodies?
Damn, nah. There not be no camera in that building. No, it's GG's. Fuck. Now, that's actually tough. I knew, for a second, I knew I wasn't tripping. I literally, bro. I said everybody became a killer, bro. No, I was not tripping, nigga. Ain't no way. Dickhead. Dickhead. I should record that. This one I'm gonna record now.
If you were invited to a mansion...
This one don't look that scary. I'm gonna start recording now. I gotta... How do I make it? Where do I go again? Hotkeys. So I don't have to key them. What am I doing? Start recording. Hold on. We'll say, do I have F9 or anything? Do I have any? Okay, I got F2, F3, taken. I need me a whatchamacallit too. I need me a little thing. I don't know what it's called. Soundboard. Okay, so F9, F10. So F9 and F10. To start streaming? Nah, I'm gonna press this shit on accident. I'm gonna do recording. I'm gonna press that on accident, so. F5. F6. F5 and F6. Hold on. Look at it. That should just work. Hold on.
If you were invited to a mansion only to be kept prisoner as a vampire's bride, what would you do?
I'm
going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the vampire lord in the invitation. This college student is going to kill Dracula. Evie here is at home and learning how to use her new DNA testing kit. Her whole family is dead, and wanting to see if any relatives are still alive, she decides to try it out. The woman doesn't want to be alone anymore and sends the test back to the company with no idea that she's going to be kidnapped by be alone anymore and
crazy bump on her head. Hold on. She hit the wall on accident.
The test back to the company with no idea that she's going to be kidnapped by a cult of bloodthirsty vampires. Days later, she hangs out with her best friend when she gets an email from the DNA testing company revealing that she has a British cousin. He wants to meet with her soon, but Evie's friend finds it suspicious. They know nothing about this guy, and the friend jokes that he might be planning on taking her organs. It sounds crazy, and the college student reassures the woman that she's being paranoid, replying to the man to set up a reunion. The next morning, she meets meets with her cousin for lunch,
Yeah, my
and he
day
happily
went
reveals that
somewhere
everyone
too.
in her extended family wants to meet her. He suggests she comes to England for their aunt's wedding to meet the rest of the clan, and the woman tells him she can't afford the trip, but the man reassures her that he'll cover the cost. Surprised,
So he's
Evie
a
is
royal.
blown away by his generosity,
royal.
and with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in her hands, she
Bro,
accepts.
just a rich
Traveling to
Englander.
Yorkshire, the woman is picked up by her cousin, and she's taken deep into the English
I
countryside
wonder
to
if they
this
said the
huge
time
manor.
zone for
Getting
this.
out of the car, the college student admires the scenery and starts to text her friend,
no.
but bumps right into a maid. The woman drops a crate of wine glasses on the ground, and Evie immediately gets down to help her clean up the mess. The maid is surprised by her kindness, but then this butler comes over and orders the helpers to clean up faster. Angry, the college student confronts him, but they're interrupted when Walter here steps in. The butler quickly
Nah, niggas
excuses
got the
himself,
exact
and the woman asks the man who
vampire
he
build that
is,
you would
but that's
expect.
when the cousin joins them, introducing Walter as the Lord of the Manor. Evie can't help but find him charming,
This
and
nigga-
soon, she'll discover he's hiding a terrible secret.
Nigga, you're
Later,
related.
the butler gives her a tour of the building,
not.
telling her she's allowed to go anywhere in the estate
Tripping.
except for the library, and leads the American
I mean, I can
upstairs
see-
where she meets Mrs. Swift, her
that.
personal maid. The older
You
woman
judge
takes her
me
into the
instantly.
guest room, and the college student is amazed by how
everybody here
fancy
is
everything
vampires.
is. But then she notices something strange. There are spiked bars in the window, and the maid explains that the
That
local
means-
strikes start attacking people around this time of the year. It's shocking to hear, and as the American finishes looking around, she
that?
spots a painting of a woman. The maid explains that it's the former lady of the house, but she sadly passed away recently. With everything sorted, the old woman leaves the room, but
R.I.P.
soon she'll be the only person
I just realized my dad. Come on,
in the entire country that Evie can trust. Okay, something doesn't add up here. Earlier, this maid told Evie a story about the local strikes, explaining that they plucked out a stable boy's eye, and these window bars are meant to keep the birds away. Now, this might sound crazy, but shrikes have actually been known to attack
Bro,
humans,
strikes?
and will impale
That's
their
what it
prey on
is.
spikes before stripping away the meat. It's brutal, but the strange thing
I did
is,
not
if
know
you
what
look at
they
the
did.
design of the window bars, it has a half-inch white spike, and it's clear that they were not designed
so they
to
were saying
repel these
strikes
birds.
eat?
If anything, it would be the
Fair.
perfect design for a
Deadly.
front row seat to watch one of nature's
I
most savage
just gonna
predators
say
kill
that,
its
like,
prey,
come on.
and that likely means that this
That's what
woman
they
is
about to get
already
put on.
lying to us. Normally, you would want to have long, thin spikes that are densely clustered so that the birds can't perch. And if the maid isn't being honest about something as simple as their
that's the
window
perfect area
bars,
for
then
them
we
to
can
get the
only imagine
feasting.
what else she might be hiding.
got
Now,
badges,
there's
like-
another suspicious detail, and that's the Russian doll that was given by the maids of honor. What's strange is that not only have we not met them yet, but we also aren't in the wedding, and we were the only guests to get one. For a wealthy
get
English
married.
family to give their only American guest a Russian doll is such a weird thing to do that we have to assume there's a meaning behind
shit
this.
ancient.
What's
They just
interesting is that
look for these
Matryoshka dolls actually symbolize a mother carrying a child within her and represent a chain of mothers carrying on the family legacy through their children. This should be freaking Evie out, because when you add up all these details together, it starts to become clear that there's definitely an ulterior motive. The cousin was way too eager to meet up and pay for her trip, and the personal gift might be symbolizing that they see her as someone who should continue their family lineage.
Like, that
The
wouldn't be
truth
that
is, we
crazy,
don't know anything about these people. So if I were Evie here, the least I could
I
do
don't know
is
why
use
she
my
would
phone to
fly out.
verify everyone's stories by searching up the
low-key a little
members of these
insane.
wealthy families. We know the Lord of the Manor is called Walter DeVille, and the couple who are supposed to get
got a
married are
classic
Martin
vamp name,
Alexander
too.
and Cecil DeVille. These families are obviously well connected, and the
his name's
cousin
sister?
told us that this will be the wedding of the century. That's a pretty serious claim, and if these people are who they say they are, then it would
Century,
definitely
huh?
come up in a Google search. In the UK, the public can easily access birth,
that nigga
marriage, and
English.
death records online, and if the information we find is wildly different from what we're being told, then we
Nigga
have
Smith.
every
I
reason
bet
to
not see a
suspect
single
that we
gun in
might
this
be in
movie.
danger. That night, the student goes
bet
out for a
not.
run, but comes to a
about to
stop.
be fighting
There's
with
something
swords.
wrong with this place, and when Evie looks back
This
at
is
the
the
house,
perfect-
she sees a
perfect
woman
place for
staring
it.
through the window that looks
Or which one
identical
call it?
to the lady of the manor. Suddenly, Evie wakes up from her nightmare and spots a figure sitting in the chair across from her. Terrified,
bro,
she
I'm
turns on the
freezing, bro.
lights
This
and
is-
finds no one there. She quickly leaves the room to get some water, but as Evie walks through the hallway,
Making
she
me
spots the
scared.
butler giving instructions to the maids, and they all look scared to death. The woman doesn't notice a creature's hand reaching out towards her, but at the
Hold on.
last second, she turns around, finding the hallway empty. That's when the old maid sneaks up on her, insisting that she should go back to bed, and Evie asks what's going on downstairs. The old maid only tells her that they're doing a final round of cleaning, but the girl won't find out what's really happening until it's too
Niggas
late.
about to get drained for
Meanwhile,
they blood.
downstairs, the butler opens the library door for the helper, and the girl walks inside with no idea this was a trap. The maid starts
Not
lighting
for real.
candles in the room when she hears something creaking in the
jamming to the
darkness,
music,
and the
too.
candles are blown out one by one. Terrified, the girl
R.I.P.
backs up when she spots a creature on the ceiling and screams as the monster attacks her. The next morning, Evie
R.I.P.
wakes up and is told that her family reunion has
Nigga, Ain't no way. I did not realize this whole time. Nigga, this movie is based off of this girl being a fucking idiot. Why in the hell? Nigga, she just accepted her fate, just moved in and everything, then slipped there. Nigga, she not shook that she didn't wake up onto a random area. She getting shipped off. Like, why would you come here? Like, black market. Nigga, her friend told her something like about the black market. Nigga, I would be afraid that I wouldn't wake up. Like, why would you think she... Is this a... No, this is her first night here, but why would you, like, even, like, trust it? You don't know none of these people. You might be related to them, but that don't mean nothing. Don't nobody else but your friend, and your friend don't know how long you gonna be out here for. I would think that you just don't want to talk to me no more or something. I don't know. This lady a dickhead. I don't know why she would do this.
Has already started. Getting out of bed, she heads downstairs to meet her relatives, and her great uncle decides to make a toast, welcoming the woman to their clan. He's overjoyed that the family finally has a woman in the family, and although it sounds like a joke, she'll discover the dark secret they're all hiding. Meanwhile, the butler unlocks the gate to the wine cellar and tells these maids to fetch a specific bottle. Suspicious, the woman asks him why they're being sent in pairs, and the man reminds her that she can be a bit clumsy, so she'll need help. With their orders given, the women walk down into the cellar and begin looking around, but as they're searching, a hand suddenly touches this maid's head. At first, Dia thinks it's her friend, but notices the other maid isn't here, and realizes someone else touched her hair. Terrified, the girl tracks down the helper and manages to find her, as well as locate the vintage they're looking for. She reaches into the wine holder and manages to grab a hold of the bottle, but suddenly, something pulls her arm. The girl doesn't know what's happening and panics, but then she notices someone standing behind the other maid. It's a tall figure hidden by shadows, and it breaks the girl's neck before dragging her into the darkness. Dia is left alone to fend for herself, and there's no one to hear her scream. This manor is hiding a terrifying secret, and Evie here doesn't suspect a thing. Okay, this place keeps getting weird. There's definitely a bloodthirsty monster lurking around the mansion, but if Evie here was paying attention, she'd realize there are plenty of signs that something sinister is already going on. First of all, there's no good reason why a single maid is being selected to clean a massive library alone at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's also extremely strange that these girls' collars have numbers stitched into their uniforms. Normally, a housemaid's outfit wouldn't have anything on it, and if extra work is being done here, it must be for a reason. Usually, an English manor like this would keep the same people employed for long periods of time, because working in an estate this big is a very demanding job. We've already met staff members that we know on a name basis, so the only reason they would number these maids is because they're replaced constantly. It's a dead giveaway that these women are expendable and being set aside from the normal staff for a special purpose. Now, the most concerning thing about this is that the bell from the library rang twice. It might not seem like much, but it clearly means a family member is already inside the room because someone has to pull on the sash in order to ring the bell. More importantly, they intentionally rang the bell twice to select maid number 2. The truth is, you wouldn't need to select the maid at 3 in the morning for routine cleaning work, and the butler could have easily decided who was best for the job. Evie here should have realized that this woman was being chosen with a certain preference in mind, and when you combine this with their numbered uniforms, there's no question that these girls are here to be taken advantage of. It's very possible this is the British version of Epstein's Island, and we have to escape this place immediately. If it were me, I would be looking for maid number 2 the next morning to find out what happened, and if we discover that the girl has gone missing, then it's all the evidence we need to confirm that our lives are in danger too. As you can see from this itinerary, everyone expects us to be here for 3 full days, so with this in mind, I would use the next day to explore the grounds, observe the staff's routines, and try to plan an escape without anybody knowing. This will have to be done extremely carefully, because powerful people like this have a lot of influence, and it wouldn't be surprising if local police were on their payroll. As soon as the families realize that we know they're up to something bad, they're going to make sure we can't go home. That's why it's important to act as normally as possible until we come up with a plan and escape before the wedding ceremony begins. That night, Evie calls her co-worker to talk about meeting her relatives and tells her they're good people. None of them have treated the girl poorly, and she shows off this fancy dress Lord Walter gave to her. It's clear the man is interested, and the woman heads for the garden where all the wedding guests have gathered. They all applaud her arrival, and her cousin takes the woman into the reception, reassuring Evie that she shouldn't be nervous. The maids of honor are the next to be announced, and they immediately approach the college student, welcoming her to the event. Curious, Evie asks the blonde Lucy how they know the bride, and she reveals that all 3 of their families have served Lord Walter's lineage for generations. That's when the taller woman Victoria comments that Evie is lucky to be here considering her background, and the college student excuses herself, not liking the woman's attitude. At the bar, Lucy admits to her that she's always wanted wanted to visit New York, and Evie offers to show her around the city, but they're interrupted when Walter is announced to the banquet. Spotting the American, he walks up to her and takes the woman by the hand for the customary first dance. It makes Evie nervous, but the man calms her down, reassuring her they can go somewhere quieter after this. Later, he takes her to this private study and notices that she's fascinated by a pottery wheel. The woman explains that it reminds her of her mother and asks him about his parents, but the man reveals that they passed away. It's tragic, and Evie jokes that they're like characters from a Charles Dickens story, but the Lord explains he's not a good person, revealing that he's done all of this only to impress her. That's when fireworks suddenly shoot up into the sky, and the two share a passionate kiss, with no idea that Victoria is spying on them. That night, Evie is sleeping in bed when she wakes up and notices something crawling on the canopy above her head. Terrified, she climbs out of bed and crawls underneath it as fast as possible, but then she sees a monstrous hand reaching out to grab her. Suddenly, the woman is pulled out from her hiding place and realizes that Walter has found her. She tells him that there's something in the room, and he turns on the light but finds no sign of any intruder. The woman doesn't know what to make of it, but is certain she wasn't seeing things. Later, the old maid comes in to clean up the broken lamp, and the college student admits that it feels like she's going crazy.
Nah, nigga.
Crazy in this man.
I
Mrs. Swift was about to say something when the Lord walks in and dismisses her for the night, letting them have their privacy. Checking in on Evie, the man offers to stay by her side until she falls asleep, and the woman accepts. They lie together on the bed, passing the time by asking each other questions until she finally falls asleep. The next morning, the woman wakes up to find her bed empty before she hears a knock at the door. That's when the maids of honor walk into the room and tell her they've set up a spa date together. It's unexpected, but Evie joins them, leaving her phone behind, and soon she'll discover a shocking secret. Okay, this girl is being groomed. Ever since Evie has arrived, she's been constantly haunted each night, and the situation is clearly escalating. It's terrifying, but the bigger problem is that this is being done for a very specific reason. The first night, she clearly saw a human figure staring at her from this chair. Then the next night, a creature was crawling over her bed, but the family keeps going out of their way to make her feel like the most important person in the room. When you look at the pattern that's being established, this is clearly a psychological trick, because the more terrified she is of being alone, the safer she will feel with everyone else. If Evie was paying attention, she'd notice that the whole family is intentionally trying to make her doubt her own instincts. And this is exactly what happens when you're being groomed by a cult. Walter here is basically playing good cop, bad cop by haunting her at night and then showing up to tell her there's nothing to worry about. The more this happens, the more she will question her own judgment, and this makes her a lot easier to manipulate. Right now, we can't trust anything we hear or see, and that's why if I were in this situation, I would try to get close to Mrs. Swift. Earlier in the bedroom, it was clear that the woman had something to tell us, but when Walter showed up, she stopped herself and left. This is a sign that she has information the man wouldn't want her sharing, and it's exactly what we need in order to escape this place for good. I would have looked for moments alone with her, so I could ask if she thinks Walter and the Alexanders will make a good new family, hoping it'll trigger her to tell us the truth. If she's on our side, then she might even be able to smuggle us out of the mansion, and we need to do everything we can to find an ally if we want any chance of leaving here safely. Now, Evie also should have trusted her instincts and further investigated whatever was haunting her during the night. First thing she should examine is the carpet in front of the door and the fabric of the bed canopy, because the creature's nails would have frayed the carpet and left small tears or puncture marks. If she finds something, then it's undeniable proof that the creature was real and that Walter is intentionally lying to us. Later, the group arrives at the spa, and as Evie gets a manicure, she tells Lucy how excited she is to finally meet the bride and groom tonight. Curious, the blonde asks if she would want to get married anytime soon, but the American answers no. That's when the other woman interrupts and asks if Lord Walter has revealed anything about his relationship with the maids of honor. It's a strange question, and the student makes it clear that he's kept that to himself, but has no problem with him keeping secrets. Victoria doesn't believe her and asks if she isn't curious about what he does in the locked rooms, when suddenly the beautician cuts Evie's finger. It's starting to bleed, and the British woman steps out of the pool to take a look at it before sucking on the wound. Disgusted, Evie storms off and leaves the spa, but as she walks into the lobby, the woman spots the library door. She's curious to know what's inside and heads over to a cabinet, discovering a hidden compartment with the key inside. Unlocking the door, the woman enters the room and snoops around, but accidentally knocks over a jar. She quickly begins to clean up her mess, but finds something horrifying. It's a file with all kinds of information about her, including the results from the DNA test. Heading to her room, Evie begins packing her things when Walter walks in and asks what's going on. She hands over the papers, and the man tries to explain himself, but the woman scolds him for stalking her. Defending himself, the Lord tells her that he only ran a background check to make sure she wasn't going to take advantage of him and wanted to know more about her. It calms Evie down, and the Lord begs her not to leave, insisting that he won't keep any more secrets. With that, the two kiss, and after an intimate moment, they talk again. They're falling in love, and Walter suggests they should just get married, pointing out that everything's already been set up. The woman jokingly agrees as he gets up to leave, and Evie makes it clear she wasn't serious about the wedding, but the
Nah, they got crazy dick. Crazy dick. Nigga dick is crazy. Is this nigga the vampire? Is this nigga dick gonna be shaped weird? But when he changed, do he get like a... Do nigga get like 30 inches on shit? Do he? I don't know.
man silently walks away. That night, she arrives at the dining room where all the guests have gathered and sits next to the Lord at the head of the table. He welcomes each of the three families to his manor and formally begins the banquet, but Evie notices there's something strange. Confused, the woman asks where the bride and groom are, but he doesn't answer. Instead, he stands up to make another announcement, reminding the group that they suffered a great loss ever since the last lady of the house died, but now she will be replaced. That's when he reveals that he and Evie are set to be married. All the guests applaud in celebration, but then a maid is brought to the table and her throat is slit. Horrified, the American stares in shock as the family members begin to laugh and act like nothing happened. These people are not.
Nigga, she got fangs. What you mean ain't nothing?
American stares in shock as the family members.
Nigga, she got canines. If them not her fangs, nigga, she. Nigga. Nah, her teeth, nah.
Members begin to laugh and act like nothing happened. These people are not only insane, but some of them are vampires, and the serving staff takes the maid's blood, filling the glasses they hand out to the guests. Okay, this is really f***ed up. Evie finally knows the truth about why she's here, and it's more terrifying than anything she ever imagined. Not only are they a cult of vampires, but she'll also be forced to marry Walter, trapping her here for the rest of her life. Now, everyone in the room knows that she's going to be resistant to this, and that means she should expect to be put under constant surveillance from this point on. It doesn't get much worse than this, but there might still be one thing we can do to improve the situation. Earlier, this old man expressed gratitude that the family discovered Evie because everyone else is male. This comment reveals that she's essential to their survival because she's the only living woman in the family tree. So their plan is dependent on keeping her alive. Wow. With this in mind, if I were Evie, I would grab one of these knives and hold myself hostage, threatening to end their scheme unless they let me say goodbye to my friend. The family will be desperate not to lose Walter's new bride, so they might give in as long as she promises not to reveal the truth. If she can convince them, then once she gets in touch with her friend, Evie would have a chance to send a coded message that she's in trouble. When the woman first landed in England, Evie and her friend set up a strict rule not to trust men with goatees. If the woman says she's met someone who's very trustworthy and will be growing a goatee for their wedding, her friend will instantly know that something is wrong. It's a long shot, but if we don't try
said goatee, I would have been like goatee. You know anything about a goatee?
Everything we can to make contact with the outside world, then we'll be stuck here forever. If all else fails, the best way to handle this situation would be to pretend that we've given up any hope of escape and accept the proposal. It might seem suspicious, but if there's one thing these people understand, it's lust for power and wealth. That's why I would start making requests that demonstrate self-interest, and as counterintuitive as it might seem, this might be enough to convince everyone in the room that we've bought into the idea, and now we're just haggling over a price. With that said, this strategy is going to take some time, because they'll need to be convinced for long enough that they relax their surveillance. The bad news is that we'll probably still have to go through with the wedding, but it also gives us a better chance of escape. Afterwards, her best bet would be to wait a couple months, then look for a toxic.
She knew the dick was good enough. She slept with that nigga a day in. That's crazy. Shit was too easy to get.
Planned on the mansion's grounds to poison herself with. It's important to remember that the three families in attendance are lawyers, accountants, and real estate brokers who have been serving the lord of the manor, so there aren't any doctors among them. This means that if we can find and ingest a very low dose of something like nightshade or oleander, the symptoms will be serious enough to force the family to rush us to a nearby hospital for treatment. Getting out of this mansion is the most effective way to improve our chances of escape, and even if we get extremely sick, it's still worth the risk. Walter continues his speech, reminding them that their families have been providing him a wife from each clan in return for financial success. This agreement was threatened when Evie's great-grandmother, the previous lady of the house, died, and the woman realizes that this entire trip was actually meant to fulfill this ancient pact. Traumatized, the college student stands up and tries to leave, but the waiting staff stop her. The Lord calls her back to the table as the woman begs the others for help, but they refuse. Panicking, she starts banging on the door, but the Lord stops her and demands she calms down. There's no one who will help her, and
so that was this nigga hands. Look at this nigga hands.
Banging on the door, but the Lord stops her and demands she calms down. There's no one who will help her, and the staff take the woman away, leaving her in a cellar by herself. That's when the maids of honor walk in, revealing that they're
bathroom.
married to the vampire lord, and the tall woman demands that she stop resisting. That's when Evie suddenly realizes that the creature she saw in her bedroom was actually Victoria, and asks why they're
Oh, that
doing
was
this
her?
to her. The vampire explains that their
they
bloodline is
probably all look
special,
the
and when
same,
they're
so-
all united, then they become immortal. Lucy here also explains that she'll be forced to drink Walter's blood during the wedding ceremony to become his new vampire bride. Once the man drinks her blood, they'll all continue to live forever and be bound to his will. Suddenly, a helper jumps up and tries to escape her bindings, but gets stopped by her restraints. The tall vampire picks the woman up, intending to drink her blood, but Evie begs her not to. Humoring the American, she orders the butlers to prepare the maid for the ceremony and has a surprise for Evie. She opens up a coffin, mocking the girl that this is where she'll be sleeping, and the vampire cuts her free before throwing her into the coffin. With that, the woman nails the door shut as the American begs for help and walks away, leaving her trapped inside. Later, she hears a
low-key think I
creaking
would go to
sound,
sleep
and the
in it.
front of the coffin opens up.
probably ain't
The
that
old
bad
maid
to
has
sleep inside
found
the
her and
coffin.
insists they need to get out now. Confused, Evie asks why she's helping her, and the woman reveals that her great-grandmother was a
Nigga, her eyes look crazy. I thought. Never mind. Let me stop. I am very sorry. I do apologize. Cause nigga, I got a crazy sleeping eye too. I mean, lazy eye too. I ain't gonna lie. I got a crazy sleeping.
close friend,
Lazy
but the
eye, too.
American needs to get out of
very
here
much so
before
my
the
fault.
staff catches them.
I
She
was
warns
listening
Evie that if
for
they
a
do,
second.
her best chance for survival
I
is
just
to
like that
either
was my, like,
stab them with a
only
stake
downside
or
of my
burn
eyes
them
is
and
not
urges
using
the girl to leave now. The woman escapes from the
That's what he
manor
said,
and heads
though.
for this old building, but soon she'll discover something horrible.
This my
Okay,
right eye
this
too.
was not
My right eye
smart.
been
It
going
won't
through
take
the
long
most.
for these people to realize Evie
then
is
my
trying
face
to
is not-
escape. But the problem is
I
that
put
she's
ice
just
and
left
stuff on my
behind her
face
most
like an
valuable
idiot.
resource. Mrs.
Back
Swift
in the
here
past
isn't a
when people used to do
vampire
that
and is
salt
probably
ice
going to be killed for helping
one
the woman,
time
but there's one
with some
area where she has a huge
extremely,
advantage over the rest of the
cold
family.
ice.
This house is massive
put it
with
on my
many
face
secret
like an idiot.
passages, and that's why if I were Evie, I would insist that the maid use her knowledge of the property to help us escape. Traditionally, estates like this have a very specific way of managing their staff, and the mansions were actually built so that it would be possible for the servants to move throughout the entire building without the lords and ladies ever needing to see them. It's also important to point out that these vampires are centuries old, but from what we've seen,
Loki ain't think of it. But this lady ain't been used the bathroom in 3 days. No, 2 days. I don't even know how long she been here, but it ain't been a week. It been 2 days, something like that.
they're only concerned with enjoying the lavish lifestyle of an English
use the
manor.
bathroom at
This
some
means that
time. Then
they're
they got
probably
the-
not that
the
familiar with
maid
the
changed
servant
up.
corridors that run throughout
She
the
not
mansion,
using the
and it's the
bathroom,
best
nigga.
way
Where's
to
the-
avoid getting
like-
caught right now.
This
Mrs.
is a
Swift will
crazy
have more knowledge
constipation
about these
too, like,
areas than
what's going
anyone
on?
else, and since everyone will assume that we don't know the
Is she a
layout, they'll
vampire
be
too?
checking obvious exits instead of the hidden pathways throughout the mansion. Now, this will give us a good head start, but we're going to need something to lure the family away from our escape route, and that's why we need to create a distraction. The manor is very
I wouldn't mind becoming. Or wait, what's about that? Or are they sacrificing her? Or is she just about to, like, I don't know, because I wouldn't mind becoming a vampire if this was whole thing.
old and has been renovated with electrical
I would
wiring,
not
but they
mind
also
at
have
all.
candles scattered throughout the building. With
that
this
should
in
be
mind,
fire.
if I were Evie,
Cookie.
I would take one to the kitchen and light it, placing it in the far end of the room. Then, I would turn on the gas to let it
would
leak
not
before running
mind.
away, making sure any doors into the kitchen are closed. When the gas eventually reaches the flame, then it will cause an explosion, starting a fire that could burn the house down if it's not
That was
stopped.
actually
Now,
gonna
we don't
happen.
see a stove in this kitchen,
Nigga
but they
dead,
clearly
he
have
looking
one
like,
because
what's gonna happen
earlier
in
at the
the story?
banquet,
Think
they
he's so
served a
smart.
huge variety of roasted meat,
My fault. How to be? I do apologize for saying that. Cause nigga, real life do go over the whole movie, bro keep on showing me the scenes of what's exactly gonna happen, and then say it like he don't know what's gonna happen. I ain't gonna lie, but nah. It's still fire though.
including frogs. As long as they have gas stoves somewhere, then by filling the room with fumes that can be ignited by an open flame, a fire will start spreading and staff members will be called in to put it out. This strategy would give us an opening that we can take advantage of and run past them into the woods. As the fire spreads, the nearby staff will divert their attention to putting it out, leaving gaps in their patrol. Since the vampire cult needs Evie alive, we don't have to worry about getting killed if they catch us, and a big distraction like this will give us our best chance of getting out of here safely. Once she reaches the ice house, she can arm herself with some of these tools hanging on the wall, and could even break the handle off of a shovel to use as a stake. Inside, the woman is shocked to find the helpers' corpses have been stored here, but then she hears men approaching. She quickly finds a place to hide, and the staff members dump the old maid's body on the table above her. It's horrible to see, and Evie tries to stay quiet, but can't hold back a whimper as blood drips onto her face. That gets the butler's attention, and he looks around the room, realizing that she's somewhere in this building. Acting quickly, the woman rushes outside and locks the door behind her at the the last second. She's managed to escape and sprints into the woods, hoping to find help. That night, she arrives at a nearby town and begs this woman to call the police. Seeing how scared she is, the old lady lets her in and offers Evie a cup of tea as the old woman's husband makes a call. The American excuses herself looking around the house, but then she spots a shocking photo. It shows the older couple standing with the vampire lord's butler and realizes that they secretly work for him. Putting down the phone, the old lady informs her that police will be here soon and insists that she drink her tea. With only one chance to escape, Evie throws the hot tea into the husband, but gets whacked in the head by the old lady and blacks out. Later, she wakes back up in the manor right next to Walter and demands to know who he actually is. The man reveals that he is a creature known as a Strigoi, and his father was Vlad Dracul. That means Walter is actually Dracula and tries to convince her to join him as his new vampire bride. She'll be able to live forever with immense wealth and points out that it's everything a poor person like her could want.
Nigga, I thought that she was just gonna get killed off for the rich. Nah, nigga, I'm becoming a vampire. Fuck you mean, nigga? Bang, bang, bang. Nigga, the only thing bro, low-key sad. I'll speak about it another time. The only thing that I'm scared of is probably dying. That's the only thing. I feel like everybody's scared though. I'm not scared of anything, so I wouldn't mind jumping from a 30-foot building. I wouldn't mind putting my hands on a snake. Actually, I did find a decently long grass snake too. Or not long, but it's like this big. And that's big for a grass snake. It was brown. And it was about like, I don't know how the camera showed it, but it had like a decent thickness too. It was the biggest one I've ever seen. And I don't know why I just said that, but no, I'm not really scared of anything. I wouldn't mind going inside a cave or like a cliff where them people would be going through them tight things. I'm not claustrophobic. The other thing, I wouldn't mind going deep down it. I mean, I would be a little scared. I'd be like a little jumpy if I went deep down into the sea. I mean, I would be a little jumpy because I wouldn't know what's around me because it's all dark and stuff. And there's literally zero types of light. But I don't know. The only thing I'm probably scared of is death. I want to live forever. I don't want to die. This shit getting too deep. I'm gonna speak about this all the time, but damn, bro.
But that makes the girl furious. Evie spits in his face, rejecting his offer, but the man makes it clear that the wedding will happen whether she likes it or not. That's when maid number 4 here wakes up, terrified of being in this room, and the vampire lord walks over to the woman to drink her blood. It's too much for Evie to take, and she passes out. Later, she wakes up at the wedding ceremony, being led by her great uncle down the aisle. Everyone has gathered here today, and she's instructed to sit down next to the vampire lord as the priest asks their wedding vows. It's a terrifying experience, and she notices that they brought out one of the maids, but there's something here that can help her escape. Noticing several burning candles on the altar, she quickly comes up with a plan as the man accepts her to be his bride. She agrees to him being her husband, and the Lord holds his arm to the woman, letting Evie drink his blood. With that complete, she suddenly stands up and begins to transform into a vampire, giving her the power she needed to execute her plan. Okay, this was brilliant. Evie has managed—
There's no point in escaping now. You're a vampire, like. Nigga, are you slow? As soon as you bite
to convince everyone that she's committed to the cause, and now she has the strength of a vampire. The problem is that with 3 other vampires in the room and a crowd of cult members, she's completely outnumbered. Now, as terrifying as it sounds, the good news is that if she's thinking clearly, there might be a way to get her revenge and escape from this nightmare once and for all. Earlier, Walter explained that the only essential members of this cult are him and his 3 wives. Everyone else are leeches who provide him with brides from their bloodlines and enjoy unspeakable wealth in return. We were also told that the vampires can only be strong if all 3 bloodlines are joined together. This is exactly what we want to hear, because it gives us the perfect target for who we should use our new powers to kill. If it were me, instead of trying to run away, I would keep sucking Walter's blood to weaken him further. We can already see that it's drained a lot of his strength, and that's why the smartest thing to do is make sure he's weak enough for us to kill. Everyone watching the ceremony is going to assume that the new bride is just getting thirsty as she transforms, and even though our enthusiasm might seem strange, it's unlikely that anybody will intervene. Now, traditionally, to kill a vampire, we need to drive a stake through its heart, and Mrs. Swift has already confirmed that the creatures are vulnerable to stakes, beheadings, or fire, which are all classical weaknesses in vampire mythology. With this in mind, once we've made Walter weak enough, I would look for something wooden to stab him in the heart as quickly as possible before his strength returns. There's not a lot of options in this room, but the best thing that might do the job is this old man's cane.
Whole time, whole time she killing these dudes. Whole time she's killing these dudes when she already done become a vampire. What's the point, nigga? You could have learned about your ancestry. You could have got right, like, nigga. You just killed your. You just became a vampire and don't know like step one to living as a vampire. On top of that, and she gonna be able to infect other people. Like, can you have a cult now? She don't know a single one of their weaknesses. Like, nigga, she a sellout. Nigga, I wouldn't mind becoming a vampire, nigga. Tripping.
If we use our vampire speed and grab it before snapping off the end to
plus, nigga, we already an invasive species. Like, I would prefer to be a vampire and live off human blood, because now that you think about it, nigga, it's like 7 billion humans. And then you will live forever, bro. No. Hold on. Let me get to discussing with myself. Hold on. First off, I'm living forever. Or maybe when you got blood. I don't know if you can live off when you don't got blood. But you could go on spaceships, travel light years away. Go and find habitable planets and everything. Like, niggas don't understand how comp it would be to be like a vampire, to be immortal. I mean, it'd be crazy letting everybody else know that you was a vampire, but I feel like it wouldn't be that bad needed too, because there's hella humans in this world. So, like, we really an invasive species for real. That's so crazy. Niggas die every day. Thousands of niggas die every day. For real. Happy I don't, bro. God is good, bro. Please don't let nothing bad happen to me. Anybody in my family. Anything happen to me, bro. I'm so happy my dog was with me. So 15 times 7 is that how many? I don't know, but my dog is old. Bro's getting a hunchback and everything. I gotta take a picture or something with him again, cause he didn't take a picture with him this Christmas.
Shark, we might be able to kill Walter with it before anyone realizes what's going on. If our plan is successful, then every vampire in the room will lose their powers, because it's all tied to this man's blood. The bride's already hinted that if he dies, then they become human again, and that means killing this one vampire will fix all of our problems for good. The woman demands to drink from the helper next and walks over to her, but at the last second, she knocks the candles over, setting a massive fire. Furious, the Lord confronts her, but she stabs him in the heart with a stake. It's one of the only ways to kill a vampire, and with all the guests running out of the room in a panic, Evie breaks the maid from her chains. They quickly run out of there as fast as they can, but then Victoria comes rushing after them and tackles the American. The two women get into a fight and trade blows, but Evie is quickly overpowered. The vampire stabs her nails into the American woman's body, but she's suddenly attacked from behind by Lucy. Throwing the college student across the room, the tall woman demands the other vampire to stand down, but she refuses. They fight it out, but that was Victoria's biggest mistake, as she shoves straight into the spear of a statue, stabbing them both through their bodies. That's when Evie wakes up and sees the vampire lord's wives turn to dust. That's one problem dealt with, but there's still more to come. Suddenly, the butler attacks her from behind and shoves the woman into a room, determined to stab her to death. He's furious that she betrayed them all and pushes the tip into her chest, but Evie breaks the blade off, using it to kill him. She quickly grabs some cheese wire and gets to work setting the entire building on fire, making sure no one will escape. The woman walks through the hallways ready to leave when she sees the vampire lord crawling on the walls, and he's coming straight for her. Terrified, she runs for the exit, but at the last second, Walter manages to catch her. He's furious that she would reject everything that he could offer the woman, and now she'll die here, but this will be his last.
Then she got infinite riches.
Evie pulls up the cheese wire and wraps it around his wrist, slicing it clean off. Seizing the opportunity, she kicks Dracula into the flames and lets him burn. It's finally over, and now the woman can get out, having learned about it.
Well, I forgot what I did as the outro last time. Bang. Yes, sir. We good. I don't know, but I'm gonna just leave it off as that. Bang. Let's see if it stopped recording. Yes, sir. No, that was like an hour long. What you gonna call it?
Lesson. Never get your
We're finna go out in the shower now. Hold on, actually, I'm finna go hop in the shower just like what I said. Yo. We just hopped out there like a 2-hour show. Yup. Everything right. Get my toes on it. Just found the magnet. It's more heavy. Might be years old. Just found it at the bottom of a. Not this one, but Fabuloso spray. Is it? I don't know it. I said Fabulosos. We got a whole bunch of these. Not this one. This one my one. Can you see it? Let's look at the bottom. I mean, no, it must be years old. I ain't glad I might end this right here. I really like took like a 3-hour bath. This mud is heavy. I wish I had something to weight this. So heavy. It is for size. I don't know what I was on.
Miles below the surface. Miles below the surface of the ocean, scientists are collecting alien-like creatures from one of the world's least explored ecosystems.
That's lovely stuff. Imagine having a population of like 30 animals. I mean, nah, that ain't that bad.
They're studying what lives down here before a new industry moves in to vacuum tons of rocks from the seafloor. Each one packed full of ingredients needed to build electric car batteries, wind turbines, and solar panels. There could be billions of tons of valuable nodules in the ocean. A Canadian startup called The Metals Company could be the first to cash in. And on this test run, it scooped up the world's biggest haul yet. You're looking at a cargo hold full of clumps of metal that formed over millions of years.
This is history. I've never stood in this. No one has. No one.
The CEO says deep sea mining does less damage than mining on land. Though no one really knows for sure yet.
Should we be going to dig up our rainforest to get these metals? Or should we be going to this abyssal zone to pick up rocks?
But as the company toasts to a successful pilot mission, environmental activists say deep sea mining is not worth the risks.
We call on you to stop plundering the sea floor.
They say they have leaked video of sediment dumping that proves their point.
Keep it in the ground, just keep it in the ground.
Hundreds of experts have called for a pause on this kind of mining until one of the world's most mysterious ecosystems can be studied further.
Please do the science before you go in and destroy.
Can
You see how they just caught a creature? Like, you know how many things they're probably living on?
vacuuming billions of rocks from the deep sea really help power a switch to renewable energy? And is this kind of mining actually any better than mining on land?
Unless, like,
We went
I don't really care if they doing in the sea, but like maybe on a trench type of sea. Nah, cause you can't even go down there. But all the creatures that are rare.
aboard the Hidden Gem to see what mining the deep sea really looks like. These rocks are called polymetallic nodules. If you cut one in half, the inside is kind of like a jawbreaker candy. Each one begins with a fragment, like a shark tooth or shell. Over millions of years, metal particles from the water and sediment build up. A layer just a few millimeters thick can take 1 million years to form. Nodules are found in flat, soft parts of the deep ocean around the world. One of the most promising nodule fields is in the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, a stretch of Pacific Ocean floor about as wide as the continental United States. Nearly 20 companies and countries are racing to launch the deep sea mining industry here. Much of it is reserved for developing nations, so the Metals Company partnered with 3 Pacific Island countries to be able to explore their plots.
How are you? Jared. Nice to meet you.
Gerard Barron is on a decade-long quest to mine the deep. His last venture ran out of money.
I wanted to do something that was near impossible. You know, I was pretty sure that if I didn't do this, then it may not move forward. And that would be a travesty.
He's the CEO of the Metals Company,
Tragedy?
which in November finished a 10-week trial run, collecting nodules from the deep.
Today marks one of the most important proof points. The technology is available to collect these rocks at a commercial scale.
Here's how it works. The ship lowers a collector vehicle into the water. This prototype weighs 90 tons.
Oh, and this is insider business, nigga. These niggas do not care about none of the downsides. These niggas will show. Facts. I think the world is mostly ocean, so. Nah, nigga, if they could form asteroids, nigga, that would be way better. Because asteroids, literally, all of them is just metal.
And is about the size of a minibus. Operators drive the collector remotely from inside this control room. Each vehicle has 4 nozzles and sensors that adjust their positions.
They hover just above the seabed, and the nodules that are laying there are sucked into the nozzle. They work kind of like a vacuum cleaner.
The machine also collects the top few centimeters of mud. Internal pumps separate that from the rocks and shoot some of the sediment back out. Next, air bubbles push rocks, mud, and seawater up a tube that can extend up to 2.5 miles. After about 12 minutes, the slurry reaches the surface. A whirlpool uses gravity to separate the nodules from water and sediment. The Hidden Gem was originally built to drill for oil. The Metals Company and its engineering partner called Allseas retrofitted it to collect and store nodules. The pile in this hold is the expedition's harvest. The company says it's 3,000 metric tons.
This is the first time a commercial collection of this scale has ever been done.
Many rocks break apart on their way up to the ship.
They are quite brittle, but still the product is very valuable for extraction of nickel, cobalt, copper, and manganese.
Most of the nodules will stay in storage until the company scales up. The Metals Company's ultimate plan is to build processing centers at ports that will melt and refine the rocks into separate streams of useful metals. The company wants those facilities to be powered on renewable energy and eventually plans to recycle battery metals as well. But first, it needs permission from the International Seabed Authority to scale up mining. Some have criticized that process, saying approval to explore mining in the first place has been rushed and secretive. But the CEO says this mission will provide insights about mining that you can only get by mining.
If you're going to move an industry from an idea into commercial production, you need to do this. All of this data is going to be so important as we build a picture and prepare our finalized environmental impact study.
Researchers hired by the Metals Company sail alongside the mining ship in this science vessel. They're taking samples before and after harvesting to see how kicking up clouds of sediment or creating lots of noise affects the deep sea environment.
Probably affect them heavy, I ain't gonna lie.
I sometimes hear our critics say, but how can we trust the science if you're paying for it? I say to them, well, who's going to pay for it? If I'm not going to pay for it, I'm sure you're not either.
The company's environmental impact statement based on this mission is expected in the second half of 2023. And one of the main questions is what to do with the water and sediment sucked up with the nodules. The Metals Company is still testing out the right depth to minimize the impact of sediment clouds, but estimates it's below 1,200 meters. If it's closer to the surface, it can block sunlight to sea life below and spread to a wider area. Activist groups shared these video clips with Insider, They say it shows the hidden gem spilling wastewater onto the surface. The metals company responded with their own video, saying it was a temporary overflow from the whirlpool, which it says ran over the deck and out of these pipes. In an email, the company said the event did not have the potential to cause harm. Insider could not verify whether the videos show the same event. Experts told us loose sediment could impact sea life down below.
These are like the most clear waters probably on the planet. So suddenly dumping a lot of sediment in there that the animals are not used to probably will have some impact. So we actually don't really know how much they can withstand.
Okay, and how many meters are you behind the collector?
24 meters.
A promotional video from the metals company calls this mining area
a vast underwater desert.
But even deserts have life in them, and this stretch of seafloor does too. Many of the species in the dark, high-pressure habitat haven't been found anywhere else on Earth. Recent expeditions have found a never-before-seen octopus, a swarm of eels eating bait, plus sea cucumbers, fish, and stuff we didn't even have a name for yet. Like this thing with nearly 7-foot-long tentacles. It's attached to a sponge stalk, which is stuck on a nodule. That's a key detail. The rocks seem to give some creatures on the soft seafloor something to hold on to. So no matter how careful the miners are not to stir up sand, removing nodules would take away key habitat and likely kill any animals attached to them.
We can't really predict the scale of species extinctions that would come from that much mining, but there's reason to think it could be significant.
We don't actually know enough yet to understand all these impacts and therefore the costs.
What we do know is that mining metals on land can have devastating effects.
Not as much as
the cobalt rush in the Democratic Republic of the Congo has been linked to human rights abuses, including the use of child labor.
Like the ocean is really good water.
In Indonesia and the Philippines, nickel mining operations led to the deforestation of tropical areas. But some mines are managed better than others.
People promoting deep sea mining often argue that all land-based mining is inherently badly managed. And that's not true. There are certainly many cases where it is, but there are certainly many cases where it's not.
Ores mined on land also leave behind lots of leftovers, called tailings. These can leach dangerous pollution into water and soil if not disposed of properly. The CEO believes seafloor mining solves that waste issue and has other benefits too.
We generate zero waste and zero tailings. We don't have the risk of any child labor. We can commercially pick up these rocks and help stop some of the terrible deforestation of our most biodiverse habitats on land.
That would mean replacing some land-based mining with deep-sea mining. But experts say there's no evidence land-based mining would go away or even decline if we mine the seafloor.
You'll just end up with a situation that you are going to have increased ecological harm on land and then at sea as well.
Hidden gem, hidden gem, hidden gem.
On November 16th, a Greenpeace campaigner radioed the mining ship at sea to tell the crew his concerns.
Deep sea mining is an imminent threat to the ocean and the vast array of wondrous marine life.
The activist says the environmental benefits the company touts are just marketing spin.
The argument that we need to look for these minerals and metals to aid the green energy transition is pure greenwash. We're not talking about reducing the overall amount of mining. We're talking about already wealthy people looking for a new gold rush.
Ultimately, experts say mining always has trade-offs, no matter where you do it.
There's no question that deep-sea mining would have major environmental impacts, but whether those are acceptable trade-offs is a decision society has to make.
Experts told Insider the best way to make that decision is by starting small.
To start with one mining operation and monitor it very well for at least 10 years. And my personal view is that probably it could sustain one mining operation without having major regional loss of ecosystem services and biodiversity, but people are not talking about one mining operation.
Right now, 22 companies and governments have contracts to explore deep-sea mining in international waters. The Metals Company says it could begin full-scale operations as soon as 2025. To shift away from fossil fuels, energy experts say we need metals for batteries, solar panels, and wind turbines now.
I don't think deep sea mining would ever be able to be a substantial producer. So the question is that niche, that boutique sort of fraction of the market, is it worth the risk?
The International Energy Agency says that to avoid the worst effects of climate change in coming decades, the world needs to mine at least 4 times as many metals as it does now.
We damn near the end of this video. This is low-key retarded. And I know Insider Business low-key do this on purpose. These niggas will not solve a single question. Like, it's useless to sit right here. You literally going forward. Whatchamacallit. I don't know what deep sea creatures do though, so I wouldn't really know much. I don't know what they do. But nigga, you basically killing them all off.
Nodules could help with that, but we'll still need a lot of metals from land and a lot more recycling.
So it'd be useless to. I can see if they just leave one, it don't really matter, but having multiple just all around, the ocean gonna definitely start taking the hit. Especially the amount of creatures that's gonna go extinct. That'd be crazy. Well, I ain't gonna lie, I gotta post on the TikTok though. Let me end this. You see the end? I don't even know if I ever started one. 2 hours and infinite. I just gotta go in, make some clips, take a couple clips, do all that. Yo boy. Got a beard coming too. Peep the beard, peep the beard. Probably can't see it like that though. You really can't. Well, I'll turn some clips of this up tomorrow. Let me post this. Let me end stream. See ya, man. I gotta make a key to end stream. I don't need one to start it, but make one or hotkey. I do all that.